Hello and good morning, and welcome to our fourth of six Spring 2025 Hot Topics Group and Team Coaching topics. I'm Jennifer Britton, and I'm looking forward to taking you through today's call, which is all about experiences. So we've got people starting to come into the room now. Hi, Jane. Happy spring. It really feels like I'm starting to get into spring. I don't know about you. Is it spring-like outside your window?
Yeah, it is. Like the tree, the buds have come out
Oh,
on trees.
lovely.
Yeah.
Lovely, including
Mm.
like the nice pink cherry blossoms. Are they out?
Oh, I think that they have been out and over. It's a
Out and
very
over.
short,
Wow,
yeah.
ours are just
Yeah.
starting. So
Oh.
can only live in hope, live in hope. I know we've got a couple of AIs trying to come into the room, but I'm not going to let you in. We are going to get started though in our half hour. I'm going to try and keep this call today to half an hour, but it is call four in our series on hot topics. So if you haven't been here already, we have looked at connection and belonging. We have looked at engagement. Engagement was our last call. And then today we are into call number four, which is really all about experiences. So I want to take us today into the landscape of experiences, which is a whole area. For those that are just joining us, hi Janet, hi Stephanie, welcome. We are recording, so you can stay on camera, you can take yourself off camera. This is going to be shared on our YouTube channel, and I want to welcome you to call four of six of our spring 2025 hot topic calls. So today is all about experiences, which you might have thought, what is experiences? Well, we're going to be diving today into actually a whole subdiscipline of um, experiential design as well as UX. So these are really tools and ideas to get you thinking about how can you create memorable experiences and what can you be doing to design for that experience, whether you're designing for your primary client, working with a team, working with a group. So that is our focus for today. As I said, I'm going to try and keep this as close to 30 minutes, but we may arc out into 40. Our next time we're together in 2 weeks is the hot topic of AI, which I'm really excited about. And if you haven't heard, on Tuesday, the 13th of May, I'll be doing a 5 hour booster. So if you haven't been with us for any of our booster programs, that is in our coaching business builder sort of arm of the business. And they're 5 hour days, which are really a hands on workshop to get you integrating not only the ideas, the concepts, but actually applying them. So in 2 weeks, we'll look at AI, but then a week after that, there will be a paid program for anyone wanting to jump in and really take some action around AI. I have to say, spring 2025, there is so much on to go. And we actually left our sixth call for the topic of change, which will happen on May the 20th. And that will be drawing on some of the writing that I've been doing. In fact, last week, a proposal went out to a traditional publisher. So I will hear by mid June if that is accepted or not. But I am excited about this new body of work that will be coming out very much aligned with what we are talking about in all of these calls. So thanks, Jane, for the hands up. It's sort of, I feel like I need to celebrate it. I'm still celebrating a week later because the proposal itself was 97 pages, if you can imagine. It's almost like half the length of the book. So that's what it takes, though, right? And I hope that today sparks you to think about whether you're a group coach or a team coach or an experiential educator, like what is going to be important for designing for experiences? Because we are in an era of AI and change. And I think really designing for experiences is a counterpoint to and a partnership with sometimes AI to create these moments that might be micro moments to have people really connect with self, connect with others, and have memorable moments in a landscape which sometimes doesn't feel like we get to stop. So that is our topic today, experience design for coaches, for facilitators. I am really sort of like zooming into that because the whole field of experience design is vast. You might even be familiar in organizations. They now often have a full-time or a fractional part-time CXO, not a CIO, not a CHRO, but a CXO. And that person is really mandated to create these exceptional moments for not only, people as customers, but often staff in the organization. So I hope that you will get sparked by some ideas today and also take some ideas that you can apply right away or go deeper with. There are a number of programs coming up. I would not do us as a business service without talking about some of those. Some of you are joining us later this week with Group Coaching Essentials. Also, as I said, on the 13th, we've got our AI Empowered Solopreneur Booster Day, and the Coaching and Change Coach certification is starting in May. That program will be back in the summer. But one of our favorites will start a few days after that, May 9th. And NELA, as we call it, Neuroscience Learning and Experiential Approaches, our last ICF CCE program on the certification pathway. So for up-to-date information, always head on over to groupcoachingessentials.ca and you will see all that is on the go. So today, experiences, which, as I said, really are this counterpoint or sometimes a partnership with AI. So I want to bring your voices in. And I've been asking this a lot. I do an experience design VIP day where I have been taking businesses through some of what we're learning today in a very intensive deep dive. So it could be for half a day that I work with the business, sometimes even up to 3 or 5 days where we actually open up the business and look at everything from your vision, your mandate, your mission, who you're serving, because our customers have to be at the heart. And if you've been with me for Group Coaching Essentials before, you're going to be very familiar with our sweet spot logo. So the sweet spot is an exercise I first introduced and wrote about in effective group coaching 15 years ago. This is an exercise that I think every coach should undertake, and we do it in week 3 of the Group Coaching Essentials program. The sweet spot really is an iteration of what Jim Collins talked about in his book, Good to Great, back 20 plus years ago. And Jim's work was really focused on what helps organizations thrive. What he noticed in his research were there were some common elements that, when they were put together, like in a Venn diagram, helped organizations really thrive. So in experience design, we are always thinking about thriving. How do we help people flourish in moments of even extreme change and discombobulation? So I'm going to just get you thinking about your sweet spot. If you've never done the sweet spot exercise and you have a copy of either group coaching, effective group coaching, or from one to many, you can look up the exercise, do it yourself. But very briefly, it invites you to think about what you're great at. What are your strengths? Also, what you're passionate about and what your clients want, need, and prefer. So maybe you can bring that to mind. I'm not going to do this exercise live on the call, but it is sort of instrumental, because if we're wanting to create memorable moments, we need to start with our clients. So I want you to start with this prompt. Think of a program, a session, or a service that you've loved. That might be something you've done with your clients. It might be something you've personally experienced. So I want you to just bring to mind this experience, this program, this session, this service. And as you think about it, what made it memorable? What made it so juicy? What made it so important that you would put it as one of your most memorable moments? And when you're ready, I want you to drop a couple of words into chat. Or if you want, you can put your hand up and we'll bring your voice into the room. So this is sort of key. We want to really start lasering into what makes things special, what makes things stand out. Maybe it's something you just did over the weekend. Maybe it's like a core memory from a long time ago. So Steph, I see you leaning in. Do you have something that comes to mind?
I do. So this is, it might sound a little wonky to some people, but um, last year I did a full moon meditation journaling session. It was a group session, And it was a little bit of education, about the astrology behind the moon and the planets and the stars. The moon was, I don't know what planetary system it was in astrology wise. And it I was sitting in a room where I had a beautiful view of the full moon. And then there was some meditations, there was some journaling, and I felt very connected with the process. It really resonated with what I wanted to do that evening. And then it was just very, I don't know, something about it that was really moving for me. Um, so I look for full moon meditations every month. I can't find that same person that did that last one. Um, but it was, yeah, it was, I enjoyed it tremendously.
And I hear that in how you shared it with us, right? Like it almost seems like even though it was last year, you could bring yourself back. You could
I
teleport yourself back to
still
those
see the
moments.
moon in my
Yeah.
mind's eye through that window. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, there were a couple of things that you said, and I'm going to share a little bit later. What are some of the elements that we know from experience design that make things memorable? And one of them is that emotional resonance, right? Like it's not just a thing you did, there was like a whole experience built up around it. And I would assert as group coaches, that's something that we really want to be doing, creating these magical moments for people to come into the room, even if it's another Zoom call. But how do we discern that this is a little bit different? And you might do that through the way you open up a call. Many of you are very familiar with, my love of images or the charms. These are things that pattern interrupt and say, this is a different experience. For you, Steph, I imagine there was a whole build up, not just it's a once in a month or once in a year or once in a cycle, but like there's a process that we want to take people through so that they're open to the experience. And that can be even more challenging in a virtual space as well. So, is there anything about the buildup that you can share with us?
Well, they talked about, the impact of the moon on your personal experiences, right? Because those who follow this astrology are really firm believers that it impacts us emotionally. So they talked about like where we just were in the past month and the impact of that moon. And now we're moving out of that. And now no, we're no longer in retrograde. Now we're moving into, something else. And you can almost like think about your life in the past month and like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. Now I know why I was feeling that. Now I know why my relationships were tense, right? It had something to do with the moon. So
So you made the connection, right? You had the opportunity to make the connection, which I'm gonna just go to chat, and we've got Janet saying her words are hands-on. For Jane, it was a small size, intimate setting, connection with each person. And so when I was thinking about our hot topics this spring, I was even thinking about where does experience fit to connection and belonging? And that's like really there was a sequencing in even how we are looking at how we did this spring's calls. So I do want to put that in, like, because we can design for experiences. And I think that's a really important piece. Once you get your coaching skills down, like, what is it that you want to be creating in partnership with your clients? And so it could be as simple as what's the venue if you are physically in a venue space? What's the setup? Like we heard from Steph, like, are we helping people catch their breath and then make connections with what has happened to this point so that there is an arc to the actual experience? So thank you for playing with me, right? And again, if you're not doing something already to bring people into the room to create some sort of pause and connection with your topic, that's something to be thinking about. So we're going to look today very briefly at experience design. And this is like a whole offshoot arm of our business. And it's going to be an increasingly bigger one. As many of you know, I was trained as an experiential educator 40 years ago almost, right? From the age of 16. So it really is almost 40 years, not quite. But really, that is about using the experience, using the landscape of our life to create learning moments that resonate. And I think about, groups that I worked with in my teens. I can still, with real clarity, picture our conversations, where we were, who was around the circle, or what the topics were. And so experience design is an intentional design of the journey you want to take people on, whether it's with you, with each other. It is all of these things. It's an intentional design of the touch points from the time, and if you imagine yourself as a group or team coach, from the time that people register for the program. And I'm going to use group coaching because I think the journey for each person is a little different. In a team, we may not meet the team until later on in the pathway, but as a group coach, especially if someone's paying out of their pocket, they meet you from that moment on the website. What happens when they register? Is there an auto response or is there a personalized response? Is there a pre-call? And if so, when does that pre-call take place? How long is it? How does it invite and welcome people in? This all starts to build up to a sensation, to an emotion, to a connection, or even a resonance or lack of resonance. And again, with the backdrop of the world of, especially of AI, I think the human connection is a really important piece of what we are taking a stand for as group coaches. And so what is that feeling, that sensation you want to create? Is it community? Is it not? Because an experience does not mean more content, like the hearts on the table, right? It's not about bombarding people with another video or another worksheet or this or that. It is about being very intentional on thinking about how each piece comes together. So, like the roadway there, like what is the content, which is then supported by these emotional moments where, like we heard from Steph, it's a full moon. It's special. Think about how this is going. It's also about flow, right? Like, what is the pace of the program? What is the pace of the experience that you are creating with? So, these are some of the elements to really be thinking about when you are designing. And as you go through group coaching essentials, we spend a lot of time looking at design. It's an intentional activity. Why does it matter for coaches? Well, people remember how we make them feel. And I really think coaching is a more intimate zone. It's a deeper level of conversation and connection. Whether we are in the room, whether we are out in nature, on a mountaintop, in the pool, doing yoga, like I just think there are so many ways that we could be creating powerful experiences. And this is something that activates emotion. It's different than just showing up on a call like this. That experience is going to help to build trust. It's going to also, from a business standpoint, keep people with you for longer. And we know from a business standpoint that, there's a figure in the business world that says it's 12 times easier to retain a client than to go out and get a new client. That's pretty significant. 12 times. And so if you can keep people in your ecosystem for longer, and it doesn't mean that they're always in an ecosystem paying, like we do with calls like this, we really hope that these are an opportunity for people to come and stay connected, to say, I did that course with Jen, but hey, maybe I do something else down the road. But it really builds an experience. We want to create more than just a Zoom transaction. I think experience design is also really important for coaches in a world where there's 50,000 credential coaches. And so what's your unique experience? Whether it is something you do in your geographic area or your virtual area. I would say experience design, one of the things, and you know what I'm going to grab, right? The dice. I'm going to grab my dice set, which have become a big, big, big part of the work that I've been doing with writers. Now, my writing sprints are just wrapping up. We started these in November. It is the end of April, 5 months of writing sprints. For some people, they were with me 5 days a week. Some people would drop in once a week, but that's like 5 months of writing sprints. And one of the most important pieces was actually, the experience was coming. And it wasn't just about writing solo, it was about coming, connecting at the start of the call, rolling our dice, seeing what magic showed up, and then getting into our work. which as writers, we are solo individuals. But it wasn't just come and write and see ya. Like there was a community that got built because of some of these little exercises that we did along the way. And I think that helps us stand out because I do know that there are writing coaches out there. I don't consider myself a writing coach, but I do consider myself to create powerful virtual writing spaces. And maybe one day I will be a writing coach. Maybe I decide to add that to all the other things that I do, but I know that I can create these really rich spaces where people can show up and hone their craft, do the things that they love. So we've really started touching on this in our latest episode of the Coaching Money podcast. So this just dropped yesterday. One of the quotes from it, and I said, and we recorded this actually 3 months ago. Yvonne and I recorded this 3 months ago. And I was saying, even back in January, things are changing dramatically and rapidly. That was 3 months ago. Think about where we are in spring of 2025. Experience design, I would assert, is so important. It is going to be a differentiator for all of us, myself included, and this business included, in the world of the future of work. The landscape of work with AI is changing radically and rapidly. And so, what are we doing to create, and I would say, create a moment of moments? And it is these moments that do matter across a coaching journey. So think about these touch points, right? There are each opportunities to be doing something a little bit different, maybe than you've been doing all the time. So number one, welcome. How are you welcoming people in? What are you doing in terms of your first session? Whether you consider your first session to be the onboarding session or the first real coaching session. Are you doing something special at the midpoint? And I have to say, in all my years of one-on-one coaching, I think the midpoint, which we know usually is the messy middle, actually can be really, we can hack it with these really wonderful midpoint opportunities, whether it might be a three-way meeting between the client, their boss, and ourselves, which I think sometimes people are like so worried about it, but I do feel that those midpoint meetings are often like these big inflection points in the coaching journey. We could also do something really special where we send questions out. Like I think a lot of coaches will do, like, think about these questions, client, midway. Personally, I like to, if we're in the room, or I used to do this virtually on my big wall, we would do a journey line of like, what were the key elements? What were the key moments as you think of the stick pin, what have been the key moments in your journey? Just even taking 5 minutes or 10 minutes to talk about it or even jot it out. And then, of course, we have the whole closure, the closure of the group, the closure of our journey, and then what's next. And that may lead you to some moments that matter across the coaching journey after. How do you stay in touch with people post-program? Are you building out a community? Are you doing something even as loose as we do, a bi-weekly call to keep people in the orbit? And I know from experience, even with the community calls like this, I've learned to expect that, every time it's going to be a different amount of people. Last time we had a lot of people. This is like a short work week, a lot of things going on. I'm going to be noticing how many people watch this and how fast are they watching it. So for those that are watching this asynchronously, if you're watching the video, put in the video, what is a moment that matters across your coaching journey that you think you could jazz up? You could do something a little bit different. And I've got Steph and Jane still here with me. If you were to pick one moment which you could, design a little differently, what would you want to be doing differently? I know for me, I want to get a little bit more jazzy on the midpoint. I think midpoint, I sometimes really let it fall into the messy middle. We don't do a lot. And my commitment is I'm going to bring in not just the dice, but bring in something a little bit more magical, which what is coming to mind is something visual in the midpoint. So Steph, Jane, you can either say it or you can put it in chat. What is the thing that you want to make more memorable in your world?
I think for me, it will also be the midpoint,
Yeah.
because I actually have not given this much thought. Like I focus on the welcome and the first session, and likely the closure. Yeah, but the midpoint, yeah. So thank you for the reminder. Yeah. Because like last year I did again the idea also came from you, Jennifer, so want to acknowledge you for that. It's the idea of like doing a vision and intentions for this year. So I started that, and I had a number of groups going on, um and then so recently I sent them some questions because it's like the spring. Like so my intention was maybe to do something spring, summer, or like every quarter, send them something. And I got a couple response saying that from people that they appreciate those questions, which I thought was quite it surprises me because I thought that people would just look at it and then put it aside. But it turned out that's and a couple of them also actually reached out to me
Hmm.
and asked if they can schedule a meeting too. So yeah, so I thought that yeah, so if I can put a little bit more work on the midpoint because summer is coming up, so maybe I'll do that. Give it a little bit more thought. Yeah,
And
and then how to.
I love that you sort of pointed us to this seasonality, Jane, because I think as coaches, there is a definite rhythm, right? Of the seasons, even the elements that are at play. And do we just even take a moment like you did to send out a couple of questions? Hey, here's some things to think about. Maybe people resonate or maybe they don't, but we know in group coaching that things are going to have different resonance with each person. So what can we do that's just short, quick, but may have a moment of like, oh, goodness, yeah, we're now into April. Like I'm seeing the April showers bringing May flowers, like small thing, but it's a big thing because I do fear that sometimes life gets so busy. How do we remember that we're in these moments that only come around 365 days a year? So I'm glad that that has been interesting, and thank you for sharing that. And again, we played with the dice already, but I do find like even with something as simple as the dice, this is another way to sort of create that pattern interruption. What does the dice say? And you've got all five of the different dice sets. So there's 90 images on the Reconnecting Workspaces dice. And I'm just going to zoom in here just to this one here. Like, even as you see these, what makes an impact? Is it the iceberg? And for those that have read my writing, like the iceberg model and metaphor is so key in the work that we do as coaches. We often focus on those results and behaviors, but what are the invisible elements below the waterline? What are the assumptions and belief systems? What are the habits and values that are underpinning our work? And as what I've seen with teams that are now using these is like they see the iceberg, they've had a conversation about the iceberg, and now it's like oh my goodness, I'm so glad the iceberg came up because you know what? I've gotten into autopilot and I'm not thinking about my habits or I'm not thinking about assumptions that I've been making. Even to connect these three images together, we've got the iceberg with, the hand clasp. How might we need to be working differently to surface the things below the waterline? In the diversity of the third dice or the styles that exist on the team. So the third dice actually talks to work styles and it maps to our hybrid work styles, which would be a whole other offshoot for a team leader to go, oh, hey, let's not just like look at it. We could actually do a quick quiz on our phone. Let's find out who's who on the team with the hybrid work styles. Are you a connector? Are you a culture wizard? Are you an innovative experimenter? So, what I love about experiential design is we can take something that's so small, but it can become like a 30-minute or 1 hour conversation. So, with that, I want to leave you with five elements of great experience design. I'm going to do a call on this at much deeper level, but Steph, you spoke to one of these emotional resonance. How are we helping people connect emotionally to an experience? How are we leaving time for that? And how are we personalizing it? In group coaching, everyone is different. And that's why having these variety of tools is so important, which is what makes me excited that I see people like you, Steph, and you, Jane, come back week after week. And I don't think you get bored with any of this, right? Like there is always another layer. And that's why I think, our work here at Potentials Realize is continuing to evolve to really be thinking about, how do we also, for those that have really mastered coaching, how about these other related areas that are so important, whether it's experience design or navigating change or creating products, because we want to be doing that. We want to be incorporating these elements at all times. The third element is flow and navigation. So, like, what is going to help people move from one part of the call to another? I've been modeling the 7 to 10 minute switch in today's call, right? So, as I wrote way back in effective group coaching, switch the pace every 7 to 10 minutes. Think about how we did it. First exercise, think about a memorable moment. We heard from Steph. Then we moved into sort of the guts of the call, right? I talked a little bit about the podcast. Then we moved into, okay, let's go to moments that matter. We heard from Jane. That's another 7 to 10 minutes. Now I've taken you into the dice. Think about that. And we're going to wrap up the call with these elements. So really be thinking about flow and sequencing. We also want to, in really good experience design, there's this term of how do you surprise and delight people? And I think this is an area that is underutilized. I'll say that quietly. Surprise and delight. I think this is where the small tokens like the charms become a surprise and delight factor for coaches. Imagine getting a set of the charms from your coach. Imagine that my coach just got me this really cool tool and she sent it to me or he sent it to me. That's a surprise and delight. That client now has like 365 days of tools in their own hands. And what I love about many of the things we've been looking at today, including the charms that I've just mentioned, it provides a moment to pause, to reflect, and to integrate. So any great design process is going to activate these 5 elements. And as I said, we're going to be diving more into them in future community calls, but these are the elements that I'm actually working with organizations with, small businesses and big businesses. How are we building these intentionally in each area? As I shared last time, and many of you will get a bit more familiar with this, but this, of course, is the whole experiential roadshow map, right? We are creating pause and focus, creation and activation. This is another framework to bring to life those 5 areas. So we are at the bottom. I just want to highlight, if you like today and you want to apply this to your business, I'm doing now experience design VIP days, half day to 3 days. So really working with coaches to actually break apart their business, to look intentionally at what are each of those touch points. How do we build in all 5 layers? And I'm really excited because starting in May, which is why I'm talking about it today, I'll be taking people through a face-to-face experience up north. So this will run in the summer months up in Muskoka. In the winter months, it'll run out of the Caribbean. Maybe I visit you in a midpoint if you don't go to either one of those places. But it really is looking at building intentionally these core elements for your business. So aligning and amplifying from your business vision, your brand, into how do you create high value offers? How do you scale your systems and leadership strategies? How do you take your people on a journey? And then what are you doing to scale and future proof it? Because there is so much happening. We need it. We need all of this. So as we wrap up, I want you to be thinking about how and what you can do to apply experience design to your coaching practice. Here are some quick small steps or small shifts with big impact. Visual roadmaps, right? What can you do to get your clients to sketch it out, draw it out, post-it note out? Visual is key in a world of speed. And so what might you do there? Another small shift. Welcome gift. Are you giving people a journal? Are you getting them to download a Canva-made journal? Is there a video that you've created to say, hi, welcome? It's so easy on our phones these days. What can you do to just give a quick video welcome? How about the other side of coaching? Closing. Is there a closing ritual you want to get in the habit of? Is there a takeaway or take forward? When I used to do a lot of in-person retreats, and I'll be going back to this summer, we will always spend 15 minutes in nature, having people walk in nature to actually integrate their learning. So most people go with their journal, because often I'll do a journal in an in-person program. And I'll also invite them to, like be intentional with their walk. So they might come across something. I've always been amazed. We've had people come back to the room with like feathers or stones or whatever, but that ritual then becomes a structure, right? That element now becomes something that can sit on your desk that will activate some new insights. Something we're going to be experimenting with in a few weeks to actually look at experience design with AI. So in the May 13th AI Empowered Coach and Solopreneur Booster Day, we're going to be working on journaling prompts to help you create more than a month's worth of journaling prompts that you could be sharing with your clients. Like, how fun is that? That could be one of these downloads, one of these gifts. And one that maybe I didn't know, Jane, you were going to focus on mid-program, but yeah, another way to look at experience design to your coaching practice is really zooming into mid-program feedback loops. So what do you want to do? Is there a video testimonial you ask for people at that time? Is there a celebration? Is there a intentional, like bring something with you that represents your learning so far to our midpoint conversation? So we are at 38 minutes into the call. I need to wrap this up. I hope that you've enjoyed today's call. Just to really cap case study or cap it. My question that I want to leave with is, what is one moment in your client journey that you could enhance? And if you're interested, I'm going to do an experience touchpoint audit call. So this is a 15-minute call. If people want to book a call, join me and we'll talk about a quick audit that you can do on your business or your process if you're a coach to see where you might want to just tweak one or two things. So you can always book that through my regular link, calendly.com/Jen Britton with two N's, JENNBRITTON. And when you book the call, just say, I want to do the experience touchpoint audit. And that'll be a way for us to like really 15 minutes, help you laser into those 5 elements and also think about your customer journey. So I hope you've enjoyed today. I want to ask Steph and Jane whether you want to put this in chat or you just want to speak it out. What was important to think about as you think about experience design in your work?
I'll chime in. So, just really looking at the customer journey as an interaction with you that you can make more memorable and emotionally have emotional resonance with them through being more intentional about the activities that you bring forward into your group coaching.
And I think that takes just a great program to a wow, what an experience. And I think, as we think about the arc of coaching, we want to celebrate the steps that our clients take. We want to let them graduate and get out and do the things on their own. And I've always found over 21 years now that people will come back when they're ready to come back for a next journey. But it's those elements, it's those special things that help all of us stand out in a world where everyone's a coach, it feels like some days. But you know what? You're not everyone's coach. when you get to integrate things like this becomes a very unique journey for each and every client that we work with. So I'm glad that, yeah, that's today's call has sparked that for you, Steph. Jane, anything you want to note about what you want to focus on?
I just want to thank you for giving the framework about what creates those great experience. Yeah, like the kind of design framework. Yeah, because it really gives me the food to chew on, to think about. Yeah, and I find that helpful. Yeah, rather than just saying that, okay, great, this is what great experience look like, but really these are the things that yeah, that you can think about, that you need to work. So I find that really helpful. So thank you.
Love it. And so, just like anything, my role, my work is really about helping coaches bridge different disciplines. What we've experienced today is experience design. It's a different discipline. It's not facilitation, it's not coaching, it's not training, it's experience design. And I think for great coaches in their continued journey to mastery, learning about related disciplines like experience design is key. So look it up, like look up experience design, look up the more digital landscape of it as UX, right? I'm doing continued, this is my learning journey for this year, right? Because I really see that this is going to help organizations big and small stand out in an era of AI where everything looks the same, everything sounds the same, but it doesn't if you create experiences with your clients. So thanks. We're back in 2 weeks to look at AI and the counterpoint of what we explored today. So have a great day, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. Take care.
Have a good
Thanks for
day.
joining
Bye-bye.
us. Bye. Bye, everyone.